Button. Hi, this is Charlotte Pearson, the producer of Ready Row USA, and you are listening to our 23rd podcast of the year live stream. We are talking with Lara Vafiadis. Did I say that right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Vafiadis, who rode solo across the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm going to be going backstage in a second, but Jason Cottingham is our host. He's the president of Rowing Parts Supply and a rowing coach in Florida. So I guess that's about it. Ready Row USA is our website, and you will find the show notes there. We're going to augment them with some of the photos that we have from Lara, and take it away, Jason.
Thanks, Charlotte. Lara, thank you for being here. I think this is, again, we're doing a little bit of talking before the show, and this is a pretty cool event and a pretty special thing, I think, in the world of rowing as a whole, in and of itself, but across the world as a whole. So, we're just going to dive in just a little bit and just talk about your journey. So last year I coached the Four from Home, a team that rowed across the Atlantic in the Talisker Challenge, and one thing that I took from them was it's way more than just the rower or the rowers, right? You have this army behind you that is helping you get there. Tell us a little bit about the work up to the race and what it all involved, and about your team and how many people were there helping you.
Absolutely, yes. So thank you very much for having me on. It's wonderful, and I know about you, and I think I've watched, like I say, I've been aware of the Talisker for so many years, and you're absolutely right. I think, yes, I am a solo rower. So specifically, I was alone on the boat, but oh my God, I wasn't alone actually coming up to the to the race. It's an all-consuming event. It really is. It's one of those ones that it takes an army. It really does, to get everyone to the start line, specifically for a solo, because we are completely alone on the boat. It's one of those things that it's a 3-year build up to get to this race. And I had all of my family were involved, and my brother, bless him, he actually, so my father initially was going to do all of the weather racing for me. We will speak about him later, but my brother basically became my weather router. My mum was involved, my boyfriend, literally everyone, every company I worked for, I got everyone else involved. It's one of those things that I found it so heartwarming, I think, that just going around my little town, I'm currently in Malvern in Worcestershire, and just speaking to all the people in town. I love now that Malvern in Worcestershire, tiny little town, everyone knows about ocean rowing, and everyone, like, they'd see me in the supermarket and they're like, oh, you did that thing, and I was like, yeah, I did that thing. So it's that build up, and it's like a full-time job getting to that start line. And it's not just the actual funding of the boat, it's all of the training. And to be fair, the physical training is the easy bit, because invariably we're probably all doing it anyway. We're all hitting the gym, and we're all kind of getting our fitness level up. But there's so many boxes you have to tick to ensure that you're absolutely ready to get all of your training hours, to make sure that when you leave on that day, on the 12th of December last year, I felt 100% prepared for what I was about to do. In fairness, when you do leave, the kind of I think it was the rate my heart was going when I was rowing over that line. I should have had my heart rate monitor on, because it would have just been pounding. I think it really was. So I absolutely have the full commendation for all of my helpers and family and friends and old work colleagues. LinkedIn, like the amount of people I had on LinkedIn sending me messages and everything. It's an all-consuming thing, ocean rowing. It's not easy to get to that start line at all.
Yeah, it sounds like even just the word rowing, it's always all-consuming. So I know a lot of us can feel that for sure. So with all of the lead up, Talisker also had a ton of checkpoints and training very specific training you had to do along the way, right?
Yes, yeah. So for we have to make sure we clock in enough hours on the boat. So it's a minimum of 120 hours on the boat. It's also making sure that we're up to date with all of our various qualifications. So there's the kind of first aid qualification, VHF. I trained as a yacht skipper for many years. So I already had quite a lot of it, which was fairly useful. So all of the navigation and everything, I was really, really happy with. That we do a very specific ocean rowing course. In fact, the training on the boat I did along the south coast of the UK, and it was one of those things that I think when people see an ocean rowing boat, it's great because they want to come up and see you and see what you're doing. I also don't want them to come up and see me because I'm concentrating so hard on tides in the UK, making sure I'm not kind of running into lobster pots where there's I've got cliffs that I'm trying not to run into, and it's brilliant. And I loved the kind of boating community in the UK because they obviously see this completely different boat and they want to come and say hi. And that was brilliant. And actually just coming into the in and out of the marina when I was training and getting those kind of minimum of 120 hours, which is kind of 5 days on the water. We had to do a 36-hour row all in one go as well, which again, around the UK, you've got to take into account tides, because when you've got kind of 2.5 knots against you and you're only rowing at 2.5 knots, you can do the maths that you're not really going very far. So it's there's a lot of boxes to tick to get, and it's the reason being is because obviously we completely understand that Atlantic campaigns have to ensure that when you're on that start line, you are 100% prepared and you know everything about your boat and you're completely ready for it. So yes, there are a lot of boxes to tick, but completely understandable why.
Yeah. Oh, that makes total sense. Like, because Talisker has taken not a huge risk, but they're putting on this thing and they want it to be as safe as possible, right? At some point you accept risk, and I'm sure there are a ton of papers that you have to sign when you get ready for this, right? There are always attorneys involved, but they don't want anything bad to happen either, right? So they're doing everything they can to prepare you as best as possible. Is what I've seen from hearing you talk and hearing the guys talk last year, that it's really, it comes across as a very top-notch organization as well. And I think it's pretty fitting that today's Earth Day as well, because they have a lot of sustainability efforts and everything else going into the race. So I think that's a cool coincidence at this point. So so there's all this training, and you talked about your heart rate being really high when you crossed the line on December 12th. Yeah. Was there ever a thought of, I have done a crap ton of training. I've crossed the line. Am I ready for this? Or did I forget something? Or was there ever that thought, or the training was so well planned that when you cross the line, it's just like, here we go? What was that?
I think it's probably a mixture of the two. I think because obviously when we're doing our training, and specifically me, I'm not going out in bad weather, because you just don't. You wouldn't train in stormy weather. You wouldn't train in like a force 8 or a force 9, 10. So it is one of those things that we do train, and I was happy with my training, but also I hadn't been on my boat in incredibly stormy weather. I didn't know how she handled when I've got a really strong crosswind, when I've got massive beam on waves. So it's one of those things that yes, I felt prepared, but also I knew there's only so much I could physically do to prepare myself, because some things were going to happen, and oh my God, they did, that I would never have known that were going to happen, or I wouldn't have known how the boat was going to react. I didn't know. Obviously, the weather's completely uncontrollable, and genuinely, I wanted to control the weather. Turns out I can't. I really tried. So
don't we all? So
yeah, I know. It's a lot of different factors leading up that we can only do so much. And then when you do cross that start line, and it is one of those really the moments I will remember forever. It's you just have to trust in yourself that you've done the absolute enough for you, and then you just have to take whatever comes, and all of the learning and the prep will help you fix any issue, fix any problem on the boat. And it did. There was more issues than I was going to first thought there actually might.
But I think that's a cool lesson to also learn. And, you know, for anybody that's younger that watches this, right? You prepare, you prepare, you prepare, right? Preparation is as best as you can possibly do, but you can never foresee every bad event that's going to come your way. And so you've got to trust that if something bad happens, your training is going to be able to get you through that unforeseen circumstance. Seems like that probably happened a lot while you were out there. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a very fair statement. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's well, I think because I was the way I was brought up, and I will obviously my dad features so heavily in what I do, was that he brought me up in a sense of he made me believe that I was capable of achieving anything, which is a wonderful thing to instill in a child. But it also makes me probably quite foolhardy and incredibly stubborn. So there's a mixture of the two. So I think being able to, because all you can do is prepare for what you think is going to happen. And like I said, yeah, I had some of the things that went wrong with my row and that I had to fix on the boat. I don't know. I wasn't expecting to happen. So I've sailed and I've been on a boat since I was 2 years old. Within 4 hours of starting the row, I got seasick. I have never been seasick in my entire life. And I've been through huge storms. And I mean, I've been caught in force 10s, force 11s. I've sailed. I was always the one on a sailing boat that would get sent down in the galley to make the tea, to look at the nav, you know, to get all the charts out, look at the nav, because I was the only one who could be down below and not be seasick.
Yeah.
So my first thing within 4 hours of starting, and I was gunning out of there, and I was really happy. I think I was doing about 3.5 knots. I think the safety. And I was like, this is great. I'm feeling really, really good. And then it was like a weird moment. And I went, oh no. Like there was just, there's something wrong here. And yeah, I could not have foreseen that. And I'm gutted beyond belief that I didn't think there was a slight possibility that I would get seasick. And for 5 days, and I think my brother found it horrendous to talk to me. I was rowing, and sorry for anyone who's squeamish, I would row, I'd throw up over the side, I'd be rowing, and this carried on for 5 days. And there is zero glamour in ocean rowing, obviously, we already know that. But it was just one of those things where I just thought, okay, this isn't going to go how I thought it was going to go, because within 4 hours, I've already had something that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Wow. What? So you're into the row, and you've got a plan. Like there's 24 hours in a day. You can't row 24 hours straight. What?
I tried, but no, you can't.
Tried that once. What was the schedule like? Was it row, eat, sleep, like, or 2 hours off?
It was a funny one. So I think because of everyone who talks about the row, and a lot of the facts that they put out are based on teams. So a normal team would be 2 hours on, 2 hours off, or 3 hours on, 3 hours off, and they might change it throughout the night kind of thing. For a solo, it's one of those things that I realized that I just wanted to row for as long and as hard as I could, and then I would stop. So for a lot of I'm going to say 75% of the row, I would do a stint of about 12 hours, have a small break, and then do another 4 hours. So I'm rowing between 16 and 17 hours a day. I had days when I rowed 21 hours and 22 hours, and it was beyond exhausting. But we will come to the reason why later. But it was funny. I think it's because when I found when I broke it up, I didn't feel like I couldn't get into the groove. And I realized if I just stuck on my seat and just consistently rowed, I had my water bottle with me. I drink as much water as possible. I had nuts. I basically lived off nuts for 98 days. And that's the schedule. I think I tried to change it up. I went, can I do 4 hours on? Let's do half an hour off. Let's eat. It got to over halfway in my row, and I had a pretty consistent. I would row from about 8 a.m. to 1 o'clock. I'd have a really short break, maybe half an hour, and then 1:32 I'd then row to 7. Again, have a really short break, maybe half an hour, just to try and get some food in. And then from that point, I'd row around until 4 a.m. So I'm only sleeping for max 3 or 4 hours a day. And a 4-hour sleep for me was a really good day. But because there's obviously when you're solo and the boat isn't moving forward when you're not rowing really, unless you're incredibly lucky. I did realize, and I was like, if I don't row, this boat's not going to go, I'm not going to get there any quicker. So I had to stop myself rowing many times because I was like, I need to sleep. When I started hallucinating, I was hallucinating like audible things. So it was like, I honestly, it's going to sound really odd. I could hear children crying and screaming on the waves. And then for me, I love dogs. I heard a dog crying. Oh, no. And then I panicked and went, oh my God, there's a dog fallen off a yacht. I genuinely had this entire like story in my head that a dog had fallen off a yacht and I desperately needed to go and find him. And I was going insane because I just hadn't had enough sleep. So it was a weird one. I just had to do a really long stint, and that was the way of doing it. And however it works out, and it's going to be different for every solo. I'm sure we don't all do the same thing, but I just wanted to stay on that seat for as long as possible, and I had to force myself to get off it to sleep. Okay.
Wow. Did you ever have any equipment issues that I know there's videos you were seemed terrified of jumping in the water to clean the boat, right? In order to keep moving, you got to get all the crud off the bottom. But did you ever have any just issues like whatever your tiller or because you had an automatic tiller or whatnot, anything break or anything like that, equipment issues?
Yeah. So how do I start with the very beginning? I had a rope around my rudder within 3 weeks. That was quite interesting to try and get that out because it was so rough. I didn't feel safe getting into the water and then managing to kind of take it out. So I came up with this weird thing of kind of wrapping the rope around the other side and kind of like trying to jimmy it out. I managed to get it out and it was fine. Auto tiller, I managed to break one, but then I managed to fix one. So I was back up to 2, which was really good. I had in my boat a very specific bilge pump. So because the boat I was in is a new design, it meant that in a standard ocean rowing boat there are scuppers. So when there's waves that come over, the water runs away. In this boat there aren't. So there is a automatic bilge pump that basically pumps out all of the water. That broke after 3.5 weeks. So for the next however many weeks that is, so over 60 days, I was manually pumping out and then also just bailing out with half a water bottle water for genuinely 65 days, I think it was. So that became part of my routine. So I was doing all the normal things, but then also if there was a wave that came over and kind of filled up that area, it would take me quite a long time. I'd obviously have to put the oars down and just start bailing out water. It just became part of my routine, which is really tough. I had lots of things like because of I had some really cloudy days. I had really bad power issues because the way the boat handles, it's really important to have an auto helm. But without power, I couldn't have an auto helm. I didn't have anything. So for quite a few days, I was trying to hand steer or steer with the oars. There's no foot steering currently. There's that type of boat, so it's just me trying to steer with the oars. I'm sure there are other things, but those are the things that come to mind. So yes, to answer your question,
yes, there was plenty that went wrong. Was there ever a point that, and we can use this to try to start to transition as well, was there ever a point that you thought, I can't do this?
So I'm going to be really honest with you, no. And I think there's one reason, and if anyone's listening who knows me, I basically had a really simple way of looking at this row, and I was either going to finish it or die doing it. There was no in between because I had such again, incredibly stubborn and determined, and there was no way it was going to stop me. I think I had very low moments, and I've mentioned it in some of my social media. It was my anyone who's watching, my father passed away very, very, very soon before I left, and he was the kind of ultimate hero in my life. So to not have him at the end of the phone within 5 hours of starting, I was, other than seasick, also just incredibly upset. And I just started crying, I think, for many, many days, because I realized that it was the first time I realized I couldn't pick up a phone and actually talk to him. So I felt like, and I'm not a religious person, but I think I've now realized I'm probably quite a spiritual person, that he was on the boat with me for 98 days. And I could hear him talking to me, and I could feel him kind of on the boat and his presence. And it's going to sound really strange, but there was no way he wasn't going to get me to that finish. Whatever happened and however low I felt, I was always aware that he was there. So there was never a doubt in my mind, whatever happened. And I did have some very, very low points and lots of emotions. And I cried a lot, probably cried more than I thought I would. But he was there with me the whole way across.
Yeah, your team behind you running the Instagram and your social media did a fantastic job. And I think one of what struck me of following your feeds relative to others were those 60-second, 90-second, 2-minute length videos of you just and all of your emotion there on camera. I thought that was a very humanizing moment for everybody, and everybody watching it as well. Like, yes, they're doing this really amazing thing, right? But they're also struggling too. And like, let's watch them and learn from them as to how they get through their struggles. Because there's so much that we as a people that haven't done something that amazing can learn and apply into your everyday life. Like, we can take your lessons and apply them into our everyday walking around, into our families and our homes. Even if you never leave your town for your entire life, there are things and struggles that we all go through. So I really appreciated that coming across. I thought that was very special. Tell us about your dad. What was it like growing up with your dad? He obviously sounds like he was, the father that a lot of us are going to strive to be in terms of empowering you as a child, but also as a young woman, as part of one of your charities, Plan UK, right? Like, helping out and helping women, pushing women forward, empowering women. But what was he like, just on a day-to-day kind of basis of like how he talked to you?
So, and I will try and hold it together. I still get very emotional. I'm always going to get I think it's never going to change. It's one of those things. He was the kind of man that I think would do absolutely anything for his family. And I'm sure that's every man and every father who wants to do the best. He grew up in a sense of he struggled at school, and then he was really dyslexic. So in the 1950s in the UK, it was the dyslexia, or kind of being a little bit different, wasn't really understood. And all through his school, it was always kind of like, oh, he's just really stupid. Like, he's not, it's kind of, people didn't really understand that he was actually just different. And I think this made him at a really young age basically strive to prove people wrong. And he went through his career and actually started up an incredibly successful business that has been family run and will continue to be family run. My brother now runs that, but he went through his life always wanting to do the best for him. And then when he had children, we became his number one. He wanted to make sure that we went to the best schools that he could possibly manage. And I know he tried and he had to work so incredibly hard to make sure that we were going to these wonderful schools and had every kind of opportunity. There was never a chance or choice with him that he wasn't going to try and do the best for us. He did some incredible things to do with, I'm sure I can say this because it is out there. I'm sure I can. So he was ex-Special Forces, 1970s, and it was a long time ago, but he's never really spoken about it because it's, for him, he just did that and he served his country and he's done some amazing things. Some of them never ever going to know what he actually did at all. But when, to be fair, when I said I wanted to do this, there was never a doubt. And I remember my mum said recently, she doubted, because it's a very unusual thing. And my dad went, absolutely fine. She'll literally be absolutely fine. And I have absolute trust and belief that she can do this. So growing up with him, like I say, there was never something we couldn't do. And what I found most amazing was he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, 2016, so 6 or 7 years ago. And he went through rounds of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and all of the horrible things that you have to do when you're going through cancer treatments. And what I used to find amazing is where we live, we have some really lovely hills. And he used to, after a week or so after his chemotherapy, walk at a fair pace up these hills, walk past people that were struggling to get up the hill. And it was like if people knew he'd literally just gone through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and was still every day wanting to get to the top of that hill because that's what he did. And that's what he always wanted to do. He needed to get to the top of the hill. And it just showed his determination through all of it, and through all of those, feeling horrible. And he never lost him. And I think kind of seeing what he went through, I knew, like, when I wanted to do this row, and then knowing his illness wasn't getting better. I had to do it for him. Like, if he can go through all of this horrible treatment, and it's the kind of treatment that I'm amazed we still have to put people through, because it's basically just poisoning them to try and get rid of something else. I thought, I can row an ocean. That's really simple. That's all I needed to do, was show him that I could do that. And I think when he passed away, and I knew he wouldn't physically see me do it, that was it was the most heartbreaking thing in the world. And then when I realized that actually he is seeing me, he's just seeing me in a different way. And like I say, he was with me on the boat, so he wasn't physically with me, but I knew he was watching. And like I say, when I had to jump in the water and genuinely had to ask for his help, he helped me, and I will forever be grateful for him.
Wow, it sounds like a man, coming from a man that we should all try to be like, and empowering those around us to be able to do things that actually to never give you the opportunity to think you can't do something, but empower you in a way that you think you can do everything. Like, that's even more powerful than saying, getting you past the point of, I can't do it. Well, yes, you can, blah, blah, blah. Like, just because if there ends up being that there's never, I can't, like, how powerful is that you've empowered somebody to do that? So, so your row was about that and about him. And, one of your main charities was Prostate Cancer UK.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what they're doing in terms of helping solve this problem. Like, cancer is an issue, right? And what are they doing to help solve that?
So Prostate Cancer UK, they have a goal that, so last year there was 12,000 men that were diagnosed with died from prostate cancer. And those 12,000 men, there is a huge percentage of them that, if it was detected early enough and people had more understanding about it, they would still be here today. So this is brothers, fathers, dads, uncles. It affects all of us. And they are obviously kind of supporting those men and supporting families in ensuring that because it's one of those ones that if it's caught early enough, and this isn't just blanket, but it's mostly kind of valid, it's one of the easiest ones to actually contain and deal with. If not, it's also one of the ones that when it escapes from the prostate, it will just go everywhere. And I think there is still a fair amount of stigma, because obviously as women, we have checks for breast cancer, we have checks for ovarian cancer. It's a very normal thing. We get letters in the post saying, you will come and do this because this is what we have to do. for men, still, there is still so much, not stigma, but I think men just don't want to discuss things that are maybe a little bit uncomfortable. And I found it really interesting. So when I've gone around, I've done lots of shows over the past three years, and I've done lots of talks at lots of different companies. And I had a room, it was about 250 people at a talk I did last year. I'm going to say 90% of them were men, and probably at least 70% of those were over the age of 45.
Yeah.
And I was like, what, put your hand up if you've ever actually had and gone and got yourself checked for prostate cancer. It was about 10 hands. And I was like, if you're over the age of 45, it's a very, very simple thing, and it might be uncomfortable for 10 seconds, or it might be a slightly difficult conversation with your doctor, but it's really not, because it means that one simple thing means that you can then, you're still there for your family, and you still get to enjoy all of those things. Because I think for me, like if all the money I've managed to raise for prostate cancer so far, if it gets like one family to not go through seeing what I saw my dad go through, and he went from the rock and the hero to being just taken apart by cancer treatment. That in my mind is I've succeeded just by helping one family. But I just hope that the more I talk about it, and I am a woman talking about prostate cancer, and people find it awkward, but I really don't care. I just need more people and more men to understand that it's one of those things that you can find it, and you can get it checked, and you can find it early. Then you can say, we can save thousands and thousands of lives. And that's, I will preach about that until someone will tell me to stop. But
well, being a man, it needs to be preached, and we can be as stubborn and as I don't even know the word, like just closing our ears to when people tell us you need to do. We know we do deep down, but there's this stigma of asking for help, right? Yeah. It's kind of like the bare bones of it, right? There's a lot more to it than that, but that we're just terrible at. And this message, if there's anything, right, strictly for just a man listening, was just like, get over it, because your family is more important than your ego in that moment. Like, exactly. It just is. And you need to figure out how to get past that. I mean, listen to the people around you that want you to be around for as long as possible. So that's pretty powerful. And I would obviously encourage you to keep preaching the prostate cancer and getting checked and all that to as many men as you possibly can, because there are a lot of people and a lot of families that have struggled with it. And
I will continue to make men feel awkward with me when I talk about this, and that's absolutely fine. I do not care.
Perfect. Well, you had a couple of other main charities, and another that Plan UK. Plan UK, which is empowering women through education and whatnot, which I think is really important too. And Our Only World. Tell us just a little bit about those. I have looked a little bit more into Plan UK as well. I think that's amazing and a really cool thing. So
so Plan is one of those ones that I've done kind of fundraising for before, and it's, again, I'll talk about it and I get really emotional. I think that there is what they do. So they are in about 45 different countries globally, and they are just continually and will always be there for women and children that need help. Specifically, the one that comes to mind is they've done loads of work in the Ukraine over the last two years, making sure that obviously women and Ukrainian women and children have a safe place to go, and they are looking after, honestly, thousands of women that come across the border. I went and spoke at Plan UK last year, and for me, obviously being a woman, there is still, and even in the UK, we still have to deal with really uncomfortable things. And there's a really great campaign that Plan had, and it's called Because I Am a Girl. And in the UK, like I would talk about regularly that I used to go for runs around where I used to live. There was a time actually when I was really happy going for a run where I used to live, and where it fairly got when it got dark, I felt really, really comfortable. In the past few years, there's been instances where obviously women that have been for runs have been attacked. Women have been to runs have actually, there's been 3 or 4 that have actually lost their lives. And it's actually made it a really uncomfortable thing. And I don't actually go out at night if I'm in a certain area of a town. And it's Plan UK has got so many different campaigns that are just ensuring that women feel safe, and women are just have a kind of an area that they are kind of know that they can go and talk to. And they're an amazing charity, and like I say, they are global, and the one that I was obviously for was the UK one, but they are incredible. And it's one of those things that women and children, there are so many around, obviously kind of from an education standpoint, we need to ensure that, you know, everyone has a clear education, and we can get all these different around the world, that women and children are going to be able to get all the education that they actually need. And it's an amazing charity. The other one, which is Our Only World. So Our Only World is a really tiny charity based in Cornwall, but I say tiny charity, they have a massive goal, and that's mostly focused on the kind of the pollution in the Atlantic Ocean, or all of the oceans. And I found it really interesting crossing. I say interesting, I found it quite appalling, actually, the amount of plastic that I used to see when I was rowing. If I was able to turn around in a really nice way and go and pick it up, I would have done. But they have a clear goal that just basically just kind of to get rid of the marine plastic pollution, because seeing the amount, and obviously the Pacific garbage patch is a really, really good one to actually talk about. But it's so shocking how much that I was seeing, but then also just how much you see on the beaches, how much is just, there's such a lack of understanding that if we don't sort this out, our amazing ecosystem and our amazing environment, specifically in the oceans, is just going to disappear. So for generations to come, we are not going to have these incredible animals and all this amazing wildlife that it's just, we are just going to lose. So it's an incredible charity, and they're based in Cornwall. And it's a one-woman band basically, and she's doing amazing things.
That's awesome. Yeah, the plastic issue, and the Pacific garbage patches, the biggest one that we all hear about, right? But like it's everywhere. It's not just there, it's everywhere. So so anybody listening, you go to Lara's website, thisgirlrows.com. You can see all about her and her charities. Is that the easiest way to go and learn more about the charities?
Yeah, probably. They've all got links from my website that you can then go into the actual charities websites as well.
Wonderful. So head over to the website, check out all that that she's doing and helping promote. So we've got at least one question that came in from Alistair Richardson. What do you wish you had on the boat but didn't? And what did you have on the boat you could have done without?
Oh, okay. What do you wish you had on the boat but didn't? I think I said this when I finished. I specifically ran out of salt and vinegar crisps, and I will forever be eating salt and vinegar crisps, because I don't know what it was. It was like the vinegar. It's such a silly thing. Yeah. Even though I'm surrounded by salt, I just wanted to eat salt and vinegar crisps, and I massively ran out of them. And it was just a bit of a shame. I just really wanted them. I took, what did I eat on the boat that I could have done without? To be fair, there was also another thing. There was a pillow that I had that I couldn't have lived without. Okay. It was a pregnancy pillow. When I ordered it, I think my partner was slightly concerned. It was really lovely. It was like kind of like a U-shaped one, and for me, it meant that I could just shove it in the corner. I could curl it around, and it was the best thing, because it was like that kind of beanbag type thing. Just worked really, really well. And what did I have on the boat you could have done without? Oh, I mean, what did I take that was just too much? I think my boat was so tiny that the space on the boat, I think everything was on that boat that had a reason, if that makes sense. I took a lot of peanut butter And I mean a lot of peanut butter, and I didn't eat it all. I ate quite a lot of it, but I probably could have done with maybe taking one less pot of peanut butter. I was concerned that I was going to run out, so I think that was my main issue. But yeah, I probably took a little bit too much peanut butter. All food related. There we go.
Food related, yeah, food related. All right, next, on foot, off grid. What an amazing feat you've accomplished. Do you have any other big adventures planned for the future?
This is the question that I keep
You keep getting asked, what are you doing
I
next?
keep getting out. Yeah, it's one of those things that before you do the row, where obviously I'm doing an amazing. I'm really happy with it. It's an incredible thing. When you've done the row, everyone goes, "Go on then, what's next?"
What's next?
Which is fair. I do have some plans. I think I'm planning on doing a fairly big land-based adventure. So it will be cycling from a town in the UK to Athens in Greece. That's about 2,500 miles. It's to emulate a journey that my father did in 1958. The roads are very different now, but we're going to do a very, very similar route. And then there is potentially another ocean on the horizon.
On the horizon?
Yeah, it's that. I'm just going to leave that because it's we shall see. But it's yeah, I think once you do one, you can't just stop at one, can you? This is
There are others out there.
Yeah, and I think if I do the next one, I'm going to want to do the next one. It's just I think it's only going to stop when I've done all of them. I think it's
like one of these addictive things. Like once you do one, and it's like a very type 2 fun as well. It's just like it's very difficult in the moment. When you get done, you're kind of like, maybe I could do something else like that.
Yeah, and I don't think I would have said that day 67 or something. I think I would have been
in the middle of it. You were
very happy to just say no. But now I'm now I have maybe other plans that you can stay tuned for that one because I think it will be announced soon, I would say.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be anxiously waiting for that then. Great. Well, Alistair, we just got that. What's next? He's already guessing Pacific 2024.
I mean, don't spoil that. I mean, he might be right, but who knows?
Well, Lara, thank you very much for sharing your story and at a different level for sharing you and your father, right? And your relationship and how that got you through your journey. So thank you very much for that. I really, really appreciate it. I know everybody that's listening to this now and will listen to it in the future is going to get a lot out of it. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you all. Yeah, this grabbed me because my brother he got the early detection for because a friend of his had died, and as he was passing away, he said, "Henry, you've got to get this done. It's very simple, and you can save your life." So thank you very much. Some powerful stuff. The whole thing you did is just amazing. And we had more live viewers than we usually do. So I really appreciate the people tuning in. You're going to be able to catch the audio on your podcast apps. And as soon as I get it organized, probably later today. But we do have some sponsors that I'd like to mention as well. Arlington Community Media helps us with equipment and advice, and they're just fabulous people. Most people have a community media station that they're not aware of, but ours is pretty much state of the art. They have teleprompters and $50,000 cameras that you can just borrow. I love them so much. My company is Pierce Press. I publish books. I've got a couple of children's books, including one about the ocean, saving the ocean. Yeah, and my website designer, Laura Williams Pages, she will do a website audit for your website for free if you mention the podcast and the live stream. Burnham Boat Slings, the best boat cover and accessories company ever. If you go up to them at a regatta, they'll give you a little piece of swag if you mention the podcast. Jason's company, Rowing Parts Supply. Very enterprising and successful company. They got everything from those little wonderful little spacers with flanges to I don't know, what's your biggest thing, Jason?
Everything, all the small parts.
All
Nuts,
small
bolts,
parts, yeah.
spacers, wheels. Wheels are a big deal. I'm sure Lara probably
Yeah.
had wheel issues at some point on her boat too. So
I changed those wheels. I don't even want to know how.
yep.
Yeah, I realized that I needed to replace mine at one point. I didn't know what was wrong. You know, it was like they were just, it wasn't sliding well. So thank you very much for stepping in, Jason, and your expertise. You can win gadgets and gear and services, maybe something from Jason. If you use a hashtag ReadyRowUSA on social media, we will stalk you and find you and give you stuff. Anyway, this has been really fantastic. And man, let's do it again. I was going to say, I interviewed the Antigua Island girls last year and their preparation for their Pacific row. So yeah, I'm going to have them back on before they get started this year. So
I love them.
Yeah, they're so joyful. They're just
big
the most
yeah.
amazing things. Yeah. So thank you again, and we'll wrap it up here. We've got many more episodes planned, including more in our ocean rowing series, and you've inspired us tremendously, Lara. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here.
Okay.